Hi, and welcome to Divorcify's webinar with DComply. I'm Casey Shevin, very pleased to be co-hosting today's webinar with Marco Munoz, who is the co-founder of the DComply app. Today, we are very excited to bring a demo of DComply. DComply is a really fantastic app for co-parents who are sharing expenses related to their children. We all know that tracking child support payments is very important if you're co-parenting during and after divorce. Having an organized way to track and exchange your monthly payments is of course important, but the splitting of additional expenses, keeping track of the receipts, making sure that you've exchanged your payments per ordered by the court, all of these things are incredibly hard to keep track of, and the DComply app is there to save the day. So we wanted to bring this to everybody's attention because really this is an important thing to keep an eye on whether or not you're having a child support compliance issue. If you are just having a great relationship with your co-parent and you just want an easier way to track your expenses and your child support needs, this is a great app to use. And if you are having a compliance issue, then you're really going to want to be keeping careful track of evidence, and this app can really help with that as well. So today I'm going to very shortly turn it over to Marco. He's going to tell you a little bit about why he co-founded this app, how it works, and show you some screenshots of the app in use, and then the reports that you can actually generate from the app itself. If you have any questions that pop up during Marco's presentation, pop it into the chat function, and I'll be keeping my eye out for those, and then I'll ask them towards the end. And then I myself might ask a pesky question or two along the way. And so without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Marco.
Thank you, Casey. I really appreciate you doing this today, and I'm very excited to be here. Thank you again. So hi, everybody. I'm Marco Munoz, and my background is in, for the most part, IT sales. And I've been doing that for about 20 years, selling various different software platforms. And my wife, who helped build DComply with me, is in the software implementation and development space. So between the two of us, we're both coming from this we're having our second marriages, and we both had issues just working with our exes with regard to expenses. Hers were resolved much easier than mine. Mine actually wound up landing us back in court, and that was a very difficult thing. What I was dealing with was this idea of phantom expenses where I was basically being charged for expenses that didn't exist and had to go back to court in order to resolve that. And had I had something like DComply at the time, I think I would have been able to avoid a lot of pain and suffering. And I think that was a really difficult episode in my life. And when I realized that there was a way to make this easier or a way to solve for this, I started actually kind of designing what I thought this could look like, and then asked my wife to help me out with regards to going forward and building it. And we did. So that is DComply. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to share some screens. And what I'll do in the course of that is kind of explain what DComply solves, what are the problems it solves. Then I'm going to walk you through kind of visually what it looks like and how it works. Then I'll also show you some of the DComply reporting that's available so that you get an understanding or a perspective on that. And then at any point, if you guys have questions, looks like we have a pretty small audience, so just feel free to jump in and ask questions. I'll be happy to answer those. Okay, so let me jump in and share screen now. All right, Casey, can everybody see the screen?
I got it.
All right, cool. Let's start the slideshow. There we go. Beautiful.
Nice.
Okay, so navigating shared parenting expenses is a nightmare. I think most of us who are on the call probably know that already. Why is it hard? The first thing is that it's not just numbers, right? This is a really highly emotionally charged issue. Money could be used as a weapon. It's a topic that's pretty sore to a lot of folks. Let's face it, receiving that bill or sending out that payment sometimes could be a trigger, and a trigger for, a lot of bad feelings that occurred in the course of that divorce or separation. So we know that this is an emotional topic. So what we're looking to do with DComply is really to remove the emotion from this so that people can move on as co-parents and not get stuck in kind of their past behaviors and how they were operating before they got divorced. So we want to really build on improving the communication. So we also know that things like Venmo are out there exist, and Venmo is great. I use it all the time. But it really didn't help me with regards to kind of my working with my ex-wife. And the reason being is that Venmo takes trust. There aren't receipts associated with it, right? Usually, like for a great example, if Casey and I went out to lunch together, and I asked her for a Venmo for half of the lunch at some point later, I would not be worried at all about Casey making that payment. But oftentimes when exes send each other bills on Venmo or on email or on text, they might go into a black box, right? And the wait and all the time for them to actually respond to it just creates more anger, more resentment. So we know that, that there needs to be something else, some other way to track. And the other issue is when we get into all the admin work associated with shared expenses, it's complicated, especially, now with more and more 50-50 arrangements between parents. There are more shared expenses. So there's more receipts, there's more emails, there's more text, there's more payments to track. I could speak about my divorce agreement. I got divorced many moons ago, so it's really old. But basically, my divorce agreement said that my ex had to send me certified mail with receipt within 10 days of the expense. And then for me to send payment via check, also using certified mail. I could tell you that this failed immediately. No one was going to the post office to get certified mail, and we were lucky enough if we were tracking any of the receipts. So it's really hard to track these things. We're all busy, and it's just tough to do. Last part is we know that co-parents don't always agree, and sometimes it's philosophical. It has nothing to do with the relationship. It's just different perspectives. One really great example of that is, in-state versus out-of-state tuition. Who's wrong in that discussion? That's tough. That's a tough one to say. Or, the $1,200 pair of designer glasses, whether that's really a legitimate expense or not. Or is the $1,500 prom dress, is that a legitimate expense? Right. So, we're not always going to have the same idea about how we spend money philosophically. So we need some way to manage through those disagreements. And that's another part of this. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next slide. And this one is, I think a little bit fairly obvious, is that this is really important to resolve. One, you got to keep the kids out of it. That's the number one thing. The kids feel when there is animosity over money in your relationship. As much as you might believe that they don't, they understand it and they feel it. And in a worst case scenario, these issues can get you back into court. And that is very, very expensive. I could tell you when I went back to court, it was more expensive than actually my divorce itself. This other bullet I have here on learned helplessness, the screen's moving. I'm not moving it. Are you moving it, Casey?
Nope.
That's really weird.
There we go.
I don't know why that's happening. Okay. It stopped happening. Anyway, we could try to just ignore that. So what I found in the course of building the app and just getting to know people and understanding them and what their motivation was for getting on the app, a lot of parents I spoke to who had been divorced for some time had just given up. They just felt like, it was just easier to shoulder the burden versus trying to engage your other parent. And this I thought was just a sad state, just a place that we don't want to be or we don't want to get to. So, DComply is really a way to avoid that. I don't know why that's happening. It looks like it's somehow tracking my mouse, but I'm not touching my mouse.
It's like you're in a Zoom mode or something. You know what I'm thinking is also that sometimes people avoid going to their co-parent for like the 50% contribution or whatever the percentage split is because it's not like worth the argument. Like maybe you are
Yep.
getting the glasses for the kid and the cheapest pair is $99, but your kid wants the $250 pair. And you don't really want to have the argument with your co-parent about the $99 split versus the $250 split. So you just kind of were
Yep.
like, I'll just say it was $99,
Absolutely. That's
And
absolutely
that's a
right.
great example of it, right? Is like you sort of
Yep.
just avoiding it.
Yeah, and people get into a habit of just avoiding it because they don't want to do that. And the other part of it is people just forget, right? So I actually now have custody of my son, and I could tell you for the first year that I had custody of my son, I didn't charge for any of the expenses that she owed me. And the reason why I didn't was because I'm going to stop share for a moment, guys, because this is driving me a little crazy. I don't know why this is happening. It has something to do with my mouse, and I can't stop it.
So one of the questions we just got in the chat is how can the app actually help with the avoidance issue that I just brought up?
Yeah, totally. So what the app does is it makes it, part of it's an avoidance issue. And I think part of it is just being bad at kind of doing the administrative work, right? So like what I mean by that is, and I was getting into this example when I got kind of distracted by my laptop, is that I personally just didn't save the receipts. I didn't do a good job of it. I didn't track the expenses. And because I didn't, I wasn't in a position to even ask for payment. And there were a lot of things because my son he's very gifted in music. So because he's very gifted in music, we're spending a lot of money on lessons. We're spending a lot of money on him actually going on tour, him working with a band, him doing a lot of different things. And I was just paying for it because, I just didn't have time to deal with the admin. When I started using DComply after I built it, I actually recovered that year about $3,500 in expenses. And that was the difference. And the difference was just like, it was just so much easier to do it. Like now, I get the School of Rock expense. I just take a picture of the credit card when it comes through, and then boom, I just send it within a few clicks and it's gone. And it's super easy and it's all digital, right? So there's no reason why, I think we may have finally resolved this. There's no reason why this, maybe not. So there's no reason why I shouldn't send the bill because it's so easy to do.
Right.
So that is and going back to the whole expense avoidance thing, part of the problem too is when you're sending those bills to another person, because there's no centralized place where everybody's tracking it, it's really easy for that other person or for the other parent to just dodge it, to just not reply to the email, not reply to the text, and just ignore. But the app makes it really hard to ignore. And the reason why the app makes it really hard to ignore is because the app is basically tracking every single transaction that you put into the system. And everybody has a copy of that, and everybody has a copy of the report.
Right.
So now, you have a report to face. So it does really help in that regard. I have had parents who use the app actually go back, take their report, take it to court, and actually get money back that they've that were owed to them.
And it sounds like based on what you said earlier, it sounds like based on what you said earlier that in your personal situation, you and your co-parent didn't always agree on the expenses. So how does it play out in the app if you send your co-parent a documented expense, like let's say the $1,500 prom dress, and they object to the expense, like you think you've overspent?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So basically there's a dispute process in the app. So what I found in my co-parenting relationship is that we'd get stuck on one expense. And what that would do is inevitably it would stall us from paying any expenses because we're stuck in this one place. And that one thing could have been something very small. But over that one small expense that we couldn't get over, everything else got caught up in the mix, right? And that was the problem. what DComply does is when there's a specific expense that someone doesn't agree on, there's a dispute process. It's basically 4 steps. One person sends a bill, they initiate a bill. The second one is a person submits a dispute to that bill. And then the third one is the person who initially sent the bill can reply and they can provide more information. And then the last one is the person who then disputed the bill, that parent, has the choice of saying, okay, well, you know what, I can agree to this, or I'm just going to agree to disagree. And then we could document the dispute. We could put that dispute, we could document it, put it off to the side, and I'll show you this in the reporting also. And then once we've put that off to the side, we could just continue moving on with our lives with all the other expenses in our lives.
Got it.
So that's the way we handle it, is by kind of putting it in a separate bucket.
Like a disputed pile. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly it.
And early question here, which I don't think we said initially, do both people have to use the app? Like, do both people have to have it downloaded to use the functions?
No, they don't. So there's basically the way the app works is that once you download the app and you start inputting bills or putting in your child support, there's an invite that's sent to the other parent. The other parent will keep getting that invite every time there's a bill sent or every time there's a support bill. So at some point, the other parent usually will get on. We have had instances where the other parent is just like, they'll contact me and they'll say, just stop emailing me. I don't want any more emails. I don't want any emails that I'm not using this app. And I say, okay, that's fine. You don't have to. But the person who's using it is still tracking all of these expenses in the app. And then what they could do is then just take the reporting that comes from it and then send it later to the other party who maybe doesn't want to use the app, and then collect payment that way.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and the other thing they could do is they could mark bills that were paid offline. So for example, if I send this bill for this SAT tutor, and my ex doesn't want to pay for it on DComply, and for whatever reason she sends me a check, or she sent me money on Venmo, I can then go into the app and I can just mark this paid offline or mark this paid off DComply, and that would then track that payment for us in the app like it was paid on the app.
Got it.
Are there other questions before I continue to
Yes.
dive in and start showing off the app?
All right. So other questions are basically involving, can attorneys use this with their clients? It sounds like it's probably has to do with the reporting function. Yeah.
So what you would do to use this with and this happens all the time, is that you would basically print out the report and just bring the report to your attorney.
Got it.
You can show that report, and the report is exactly the same for both parents. It's the best thing about this, right? So you pull the report, and it's because it's kind of one database or one place or one ledger where all that information is stored. There's only one source of information. There's only one story to tell here. Right. There isn't, multiple stories or ways to kind of bend the truth. It's really about what has happened. These are the transactions that occurred. This is the bill. This is the bill ID. This is the transaction ID associated with the payment. It all happened in one place. There's no dispute over whether something was paid or not paid.
Got it. And how much does the app cost to use?
If we were to use it in what I would call premium mode, which is you could send bills, it's $5.99 a month.
Okay, got it. And $5.99 per party, I assume, right? Per user.
Yeah, per party. And then and if you're using it just in an expense tracker and not with your co-parent because your co-parent didn't want to join, or you just want to do it yourself and just use it to expense tracking, there's a basic feature for that, and that's $2.99 per month. And the last piece of this is it's free for the parent who doesn't send bills. So if you have a parent who is not sending any bills and is just paying bills, they have no reason to not be on the app because the app is free for them to use.
That's great. And have you ever
we could avoid that problem.
Have you ever had an attorney ask the court to order parents to use the app or something like that?
I haven't had an attorney order the court, but I have had attorneys write DComply into their agreements.
Got it.
And we actually have language that a law firm in New Jersey put together that's actually on our website that people could download that you could use to put it into your agreement so that you can use DComply, or you can make it just
Nice.
the way you guys handle money post-divorce.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That covers the question.
I'm sorry. I can't stop whatever's happening on my
What if you
laptop.
go out of
The mouse.
presentation? What if you go out of presentation mode and then try going back in? Just
Yeah, I'm gonna do that, but it won't even let me do that because like my mouse is just basically taken complete control.
crazy.
I figured it out.
They want you to freestyle this presentation.
You know what? I just figured it out. There's something goofy with my. I had a USB cord plugged into here, and when I unplugged the USB cord, everything just I'm able to take complete control of the laptop. It's some kind of weird glitch. Anyway, I think we could just move on now.
Okay,
I think one more question came into the chat box,
yes.
And now we can keep going.
Yes, one more question. So there are lots of apps available for co-parents to use. What would you say sets DComply apart?
That's a great question. I think DComply, what makes it really different is there's no app that handles money the way DComply does, or is as simple to use as DComply for money. So there are very few apps out there where you could actually make payment on the app. So there's a lot of apps out there that have expense trackers. And expense trackers are somewhat easy to build because there's no banking component associated with it. The barrier to entry to build something like DComply is much higher because now we're actually tracking payments, and we're right now we're transiting thousands of dollars every month between parents. So it's an enormous responsibility, and it's a lot of work, and it's a lot to figure out technically how to do that, right? So there are very few co-parenting apps that will actually let you make the payment on the app and tie that transaction to a particular bill. So there's zero argument whether something was paid or not, right? So that's kind of one core component. There are a few apps that do it. The other apps out there that do it, one of which, and I don't want to name the competitors by name because I feel like it's a little techy. One charges transaction fees. So we don't do that, and that sets us apart. And I've had a lot of people who use that particular application come to me and say, well, I don't want to use that anymore because I'm sick and tired of the transaction fees. They're very expensive and I don't want to do that. And then the second thing is the interface. So the other apps that are out there that do this, they aren't quite as easy to use. They've been built on, they haven't been built for mobile. They've been built for internet, and they've been built for laptops. And my philosophy coming into this and building this is that it had to be mobile. And the reason why it has to be mobile is because people's lives are moving too fast. Like no one has time to go and upload a receipt into their laptop. No one needs that right now. Everybody wants to, if they want to go to the doctor appointment and they want to get to just upload a receipt, they want to be able to just do that on the fly. They want to be able to just take the picture and go. So the idea was to be 100% completely mobile and extremely easy to use, and not feel so much like accounting software, for example.
Right. Okay, we had one question come into the chat that was, if you are in the middle of a divorce and the other parent does not cooperate and your attorney isn't answering your phone call, should you still get the app? Now, as the divorce mediator in the room, I'm going to say definitely. The reason being is it sounds like you're headed towards a compliance issue and that you're without some legal advice at the moment. And the best thing you can do for yourself is to keep a really organized record of the expenses that are accumulating, the fact that you've tried to engage your co-parent in an easy to use interface. I think those are going to be really key. And if your attorney's not answering your phone calls and has repeatedly not been answering your phone calls, it might be time to look for other legal help. And if you are having an issue affording legal help, then you're probably going to be heading to court, as they say, pro se, which means without an attorney, over a child support compliance issue. And the best thing you can do for yourself is to present your evidence of that compliance issue in the most organized way for the court. So it sounds like Marco's going to show us later in the demo what these reports look like, but bringing a really organized report of all the expenses that you've accumulated and why your co-parent should be paying these expenses and isn't, that's going to be really, really key and really help you at that hearing. Okay.
Casey, I think you answered the question for me, but the only thing that I'll add, and you can attest to it, is that when I talk to divorce attorneys, the most common thing that they say to me is that when someone gets into a support / shared expense issue where they want to start litigation, is that they'll walk into the office with a box, like a shoebox of receipts, and then just kind of dump it on their desk. And it's very hard for that attorney to build a case using that. So what attorneys tend to have to do, it's very costly. They have to go through the bank records.
Right.
They have to go through your receipts. They have to go through your emails. They have to go through your texts. That's very invasive to figure this out. With a DComply report, and we'll show you that, everything's laid out for you. Imagine just being able to send or hand your divorce attorney a 15-page report,
right,
versus walking in with a shoebox of receipts. It's a very different situation. I think it's quite empowering for someone in the position that you described.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
I saw the chat box light up one more time. Is there one more?
They just said, thank you, great answers.
Super. Okay, cool. So the way the app works is really as a billing engine. So part of the inspiration for the app, again, this is my experience in IT sales, is I used this software. It was called Expensify for my expense reports when I worked at one company. And they had this incredibly easy to use interface for me to record my expenses and then just send them to my company. And I thought to myself, why can't parents do that? Why can't they just have this really easy, simple to use interface that they could send expenses to each other? So that's part of where this thing came from. So when this SAT tutor bill goes and you press the requested amount button, what happens is it generates an email that goes to the other parent. So the parent is notified via email. So even if the parent isn't on the app, they still get the email. Right. And so they know that this bill is out there and it needs to be paid. So basically think of DComply first as a little billing engine to help you build the other parent and track all of those receipts. So then getting back to that idea of that one ledger, what's really cool about DComply is this page that's called balance summary. And I kind of think of it as like the heart of DComply, because this is kind of a summary of everything that's happened, right? So you have here the bills that you owe, the bills that are owed to you, what are the balance between those bills? And then you can actually drill in. So I could drill into this eye exam bill, for example. And let's say that, Casey and I were co-parents. Casey paid me for this already. I could mark this bill paid. I could do that right off of the balance summary. Or I could withdraw the request because maybe there's some reason why I don't think that she needs to pay this anymore. So I could withdraw the request from here. I can also, if I'm Casey, I could also dispute the request from here. So when I open this up, I could press the dispute button. I could dispute the request, and then we move over into kind of the dispute cycle. I could also press and open any of the bills and actually pay the bill here. So this is kind of like your control center for DComply. And this will help you kind of see, give you an overview of everything that's happened. If you press the bottom button there, view past bills, that'll take you to a place that'll show you all the transactions that you've completed with your co-parent within DComply in a kind of an easy to use list. Okay. So this is the balance summary, and that's where everything is tracked.
Right.
Now, you could then pay or receive money directly into your bank account using DComply. So the way DComply works is we have third-party technology to verify someone's identity to make sure that they're the person they say they are. And then third-party technology that we also use called Plaid. That's the same technology that companies like Venmo use to connect your bank account. So for example, that eye exam example that we just used before, if Casey wanted to pay that, she'd press that bank account button, and that would send me $50 to my bank account via an ACH transfer. those transfers usually occur within 3 to 4 business days. So within 3 to 4 business days, I could expect to see that money deposited into my account with no action being taken by me. Casey, I think you have a question.
Yep. So when a parent uploads a bill, does the app automatically divide it on the pro rata? Like, can they put it in up front or does every bill need to have its own division specified?
Let me go back. I could show this actually. So here in this particular instance, the default is 50%, but that's because we made it the default when we started the app for this person. So let's say, Casey, you and I, again, being co-parents, maybe we have a 60-40 split.
Mm-hmm.
This would always start at the 60% then.
Got it. So when you
and the app would do the math for you.
Okay.
You would do that, the account setup. But see this little line here where the 50% is? That's actually a sliding scale. So on any particular bill, I could change it.
Nice.
And I could just change it by sliding my finger on it. Again, like super easy to use.
If you change that if split, can you put a little note to the other parent as to why you did that? Great. So
exactly.
If you had the $1,500 prom dress and you had discussed previously, like, we'll cap it at 1,000, you'd upload the bill. You'd be like, I know that the extra 500's on me. That's why I changed the split. Okay.
You nailed it. You nailed it. That's exactly it. And the next page after this is where the notes get inputted. Okay. So you can do exactly what you described. And I know my divorce agreement, we have different splits for different things. So my son's going to college now. All the college expenses are 50-50. Everything else is actually 80-20. So that's the way we're organized. So we have different splits. So when I use the app, I have to move the sliding scale. Looks like we got one more that I noticed in the chat.
So Sherry is asking, like, does it change based on the parent who owes the percentage? So if you're the one who owes 60%, if the one owing 60% is paying the bill and charging the other parent 40%, would the app automatically adjust? So it adjusts by what the user specifies the split should be.
That's exactly right. So if I specify that I owe 60% of the expenses, then it'll automatically bill you 40%. And if, Casey, if you're the 40% person, I would get automatically billed 60% as the default. And the app's smart enough to know that when we've input that into the setup.
Perfect.
Cool. I'll go on to the next slides.
And Marco, do you have, while you're getting set up for the next slide, do you have any options for like low-income parents in terms of the $5.99 per month or the $2.99?
Just email me at support@DComply.com. Right. I've been in these scenarios before, and we try to be nice and help people out. So it does cost us money to send the wire transfers. Mm-hmm. So unlike most software companies, their cost is really in development and the ongoing development of the platform. So we have that. But we also have an ongoing expense associated with sending the transfers. So it's really hard for us to develop something that's completely free unless we did an advertising model, which we don't really want to do, or if we wanted to sell people's data, which is disgusting. I'm very against that. Yeah. So we would never do that. Mm-hmm. So, our only option is to charge for the service, but, I could work with anyone who's in a tough situation and work with them. Yeah. So, we'll do that. Just support at DComply and we'll help you out. Okay. We've also separated child support from other expenses, and we did that very intentionally in our app. And I think it's also a differentiator for us because what we wanted to do is make sure there wasn't commingling of money and that we were tracking the child support separately because it's so regulated. That was really important to understand where someone stood on child support. So and I'll show you more in the reporting example.
You're talking about like the monthly amount, the base amount that you're on. Right. Yeah, in order to pay every month. Okay. Yeah.
So there's separate, it's almost a separate reporting engine for that. And what we've seen in other apps is it's kind of more commingled. And we think it's important to separate because of, for legal purposes. Like if you ever were to go to court, you really want to understand how much child support was out there that was unpaid versus what these other shared expenses might be.
Right.
Okay. So this is the last thing before we get into showing you what a report looks like. But this is just basically the main DComply screen, and you'll see that there's just 9 buttons or functions. And the ones that we haven't talked about, where we've talked about a little bit, but view disputes, that's where someone would go and manage the dispute process that I described before. You have that separate child support button. The balance sum we've talked about a lot. There's this ability to send recurring bills. And this is really much more for amicable parents, because this is the idea of, let's say, I have a monthly School of Rock payment for my son. And because I have that monthly payment, I know that that's scheduled. What I could do is I could ask Casey in this example to automatically pay me every month for that. Oh no, we're back to this. And that would be automatically taken from her account. So it takes a little bit of trust for that to happen for us to be able to do that. But there is a way to create these recurring payments in the app. So it's the idea of auto pay basically for some expenses. And you could also set up auto pay for child support.
Marco, if a parent is hesitant about the app, like they have some more questions about how it functions before, like a mediator wants to suggest to their clients they start using it, and they have a lot of questions and the mediator's not sure they can answer all of them, where should they direct them for getting their questions answered?
Yeah, you go marco@dcomply.com or support@dcomply.com, and we'll answer any of your questions. We're very, very good about getting back to people.
Great, thanks.
What we'll do is I'm going to send a sample report out to everybody. I'll send it out to you, Casey, to send to everybody. So that people could see it and ask questions. But why don't we just open it up to questions?
Yes.
And
what I'll do is when I email out the recording of this next week, I will include what Marco is going to send me with an output of the reports. I'll include it in that email so that everybody can see it. And that will show you what users are able to generate from the app to share with the court or other professionals they're using, or even just to print it out and send it to their co-parent if their co-parent's not using the app already. So I think we got to all the questions. There were a lot, so thank you for letting us disrupt your flow. But
no, it's great. I love it.
You know, I think it's a really, really great tool for people to be using and for professionals to recommend to their clients. And I think that honestly, even if you have a friendly couple in your office for mediation, and this will just be a great tool to make their lives easier going forward. And so it's really just like a bonus for your clients for you to know about something like this and be able to recommend it.
Yeah, I think in the friendly situations, it's the best. That's me personally, because it just removes all of the admin nightmare associated with this stuff, and it keeps it friendly. I've been divorced for like 15 years now, so I've seen that the relationship goes up and down and has some serious peaks and valleys.
Right.
And the relationship that we have with money has a direct impact on those peaks and valleys, right? So like right now we're in a really good place because we've kind of figured out how to deal with the money stuff. So, and it's been great. So I think it's just one tool to kind of keep you level, right? To keep you out of getting into a place that's toxic about money.
Yes. And you know, the app itself was born out of disagreements, right? Like of not being able to get on the same page about it. And so it's really built for everybody to use. And I think that as an attorney who helped clients deal with compliance issues, the last thing you want to do when someone's really just engaging you to get the money they're owed is charge them a ton of money to help them get the money they're owed. And so having a really organized, documented way of helping your attorney understand the transaction history, all of that, that's really, really helpful. And I think that, you know, if you're in that problem, then if you're having that kind of a problem, you really want to get your ducks in a row organizationally before you're in that attorney's office. That's just going to save you a lot of money. Yeah. All right, cool. Sure. Well, thank you so much, Marco.
Thank you.
I put it in the chat, but you can reach Marco at marco@dcomply.com. The website itself is dcomply.com, and you can find them in the Android App Store, the iPhone App Store, and keep an eye out for my email next week with the recording and the report output.
Great. Thank you again, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.